whom I have gratefully served for 60 years, and especially my fellow Arizonians. Thank you for the privilege of serving you and for the rewarding life that service in uniform and in public office has allowed me to lead. I've tried to serve our country honorably. I've made mistakes, but I hope my love for America will be weighed favorably against them. I've often observed that I am the luckiest person on earth. I feel that way even now as I prepare for the end of my life. I've loved my life, all of it. I've had experiences, adventures, friendships, enough for 10 satisfying lives, and I am so thankful. Like most people, I have regrets, but I would not trade a day of my life, in good or bad times, for the best day of anybody else's. I owe the satisfaction to the love of my family. One man has never had a more loving wife or children he was prouder of than I am of mine. And I owe it to America, to be connected to America's causes, liberty, equal justice, respect for the dignity of all people, brings happiness more sublime than life's fleeting pleasures. Our identities and sense of worth are not circumscribed, but are enlarged by serving good causes bigger than ourselves. Fellow Americans, that association has meant more to me than any other. I lived and died a proud American. We are citizens of the world's greatest republic, a nation of ideals, not blood and soil. We are blessed and are a blessing to humanity when we uphold and advance those ideals at home and in the world. We have helped liberate more people from tyranny and poverty than ever before in history, and we have acquired great wealth and power in the progress. We weaken our greatness when we confuse our patriotism with tribal rivalries that have sown resentment and hatred and violence in all the corners of the globe. We weaken it when we hide behind walls rather than tear them down, when we doubt the power of our ideals rather than trust them to be the great force for change they have always been. We are 325 million opinionated, vociferous individuals. We argue and compete and sometimes even vilify each other in our raucous public debates. But we have always had so much more in common with each other than in disagreement. If only we remember that and give each other the benefit of the presumption that we all love our country, we will get through these challenging times. We will come through them stronger than before. We always do. 10 years ago, I had the privilege to concede defeat in the election for president. I want to end my farewell to you with heartfelt faith in Americans that I felt so powerfully that evening. I feel it powerfully still. Do not despair of our present difficulties. We believe always in the promise and greatness of America, because nothing is inevitable here. Americans never quit. We never surrender. We never hide from history. We make history. Farewell, fellow Americans. God bless you, and God bless America.
John McCain's own words. Let's go to Phil Mattingly. Cover McCain up on Capitol Hill. He's our congressional correspondent. And, you know, as I was listening to that, and I was reading, so this is from Dana, from Mark Salter, because I was wondering, you know, at what point would Senator McCain have thought to write those words? And so this is what Mark Salter says. John McCain told me early spring he wanted a statement issued post-mortem. We discussed what he wanted to say, did a draft. He took a couple of things out and we added a few lines, and I put it in a drawer until the time came. Phil.
Yeah, look, Brooke, I think what's important to note with Senator, particularly over the course of the last year, is how keenly aware he was of the moment he was in and the legacy that he wanted to leave. Obviously, he also wrote a book with Mark Salter, which people have been quoting relentlessly over the course of the last 24, 48 hours. There was also that very, very poignant speech on the Senate floor where he basically said, my friends, we're getting nothing done. We are getting nothing done. Essentially, a call to arms for the Senate to move away from the divisive nature that has kind of taken hold of the chamber over the course of the last decade or so and move back to a time where people could come across the aisle and work. Disagree, no question about it, but try and figure out a path forward. It's one of those things, Brooke, that I've noticed. One is how deeply affected members of the Senate have been. Everybody knew this was coming, and yet and still there are tears. There are plenty of stories with hilarious endings, particularly those of senators that have taken foreign trips with Senator McCain, but also a recognition of, as one senator put it to me, the bigness that was John McCain in this institution, a recognition of what the U.S. Senate represents that sometimes has devolved into pettiness and pure partisan fighting. It's bigger than that, and that's what John McCain represented. Now, in terms of what you're going to see in the days ahead, you'll see a mix of the traditional and also the deeply personal. When the Senate opens up at 4 p.m., the senator's desk will have a black drape over it with white roses. That's traditional. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, I'm told, will come to the floor shortly thereafter, planning to give very deeply personal remarks about Senator McCain. And then, Brooke, as we've been reporting about the funeral arrangements, it's basically a who's who of American politics over the course of the last 30 years. Senator Joe Biden, Democrat, close friend to John McCain, will speak at his Arizona service when he lies in state in the United States Capitol, one of just 30 people to have actually had that honor. Speaker Paul Ryan, McConnell, others will speak as well. And then obviously the service here in D.C. at the National Cathedral, President Bush, President Obama, two politicians who bested Senator McCain in their presidential campaigns, will give remarks as well. And then his final resting place at the U.S. Naval Academy. And I think probably more poignant than anything else, and he hinted at this in his book with Mark Salter, who he will be buried next to is his best friend, his former classmate, and in the institution that he revered and held so dearly in his heart, the U.S. Naval Academy, Brooke.
His home. Phil Mattingly, thank you. We'll look for all of that when the Senate opens in less than an hour now. Thank you, sir, for that. The nation will, as Phil just mentioned, spend the week paying tribute to Senator John McCain, a survivor of torture. McCain couldn't actually even raise his arms because of the wounds he suffered as a prisoner of war. But for decades, he excelled at reaching across the aisle, even in these times, arguably the most difficult period in modern political history. And as the country celebrates and honors this veteran senator, the White House stands glaringly out of line with the nation in mourning. Today, the flag there at the White House, back at full staff. Meantime, over at the U.S. Capitol, the flag today is at half staff. Plus, at multiple opportunities with the press today, the president failed to mention a thing about the passing of John McCain.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thoughts on John McCain?
Thank you.
Do you have any thoughts at all about John McCain? Do you think John McCain is a hero?
Thank you.
Nothing at all about John McCain.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
President, the American Legion has asked you to lower the flags to half staff. Any reaction to the American Legion? Any action to the American Legion asking you to put a proclamation about John McCain? Why won't you say anything about John McCain?
Make your way out.
Let's go to the White House to Jeremy Diamond. And Jeremy, 0 for 3 on opportunities, at least, with cameras in the president's face. Nothing. What's with this disconnect at the White House?
We're actually now at 0 for 5, Brooke. On 5 separate occasions today, the president was asked about Senator John McCain, given an opportunity to offer his tribute to this long-serving senator, former prisoner of war, American hero in the eyes of many, and the president declined to answer those questions, ignoring them instead, staying silent as Senator McCain's name was mentioned time and again during multiple press opportunities just today. The president has yet to say anything, in fact, about Senator John McCain. He put out a tweet after the senator's passing offering his sympathies to McCain's family, but that is all that we have heard from the president, all that we have heard from this White House as it relates to the president, to Senator McCain's passing. The president's daughter, however, Ivanka Trump, she is willing to call John McCain an American hero. In fact, she did so just today.
I want to extend my deepest sympathies to the family of Senator John McCain, an American patriot